Wolfenstein is back, The Evil Within is back, and yes, paid mods are back too. How's it going, everybody? This is Colin Tanner from VideoGamesAreDumb.com, and we are here to close out our second day of E3 2017 by covering all of the news, all of the trailers, and all of the reveals at the Bethesda press conference. This is the third year Bethesda is holding a press conference, and I've got to say, this might be the most bizarre. You see, if you came in halfway through, you wouldn't know that there was a live audience there. It was an incredibly bizarre atmosphere. Essentially, Pete Hines walked up on stage. He welcomed a large auditorium of people that were there for this big Bethesda event. He walked off stage. They essentially hit play on a tape, and just trailers began to roll for 38 minutes. And then he came out at the end and said goodnight. That's right, it was only 38 minutes long. And I know that we're supposed to just be reviewing these press conferences. We're just supposed to be talking about the news. But can you imagine if you sat in line for hour upon hour upon hour, just like you have all the other previous years, and you get into that auditorium, and there's no directors, there's no voice actors, there's no producers that go on stage and address you. That want you to be involved. They want you to clap and holler and do all of those awesome things that fans do. Instead, they just played a tape, and you just sat there and just waited for it to be over. I can think of a few more shocking things than that. And the thing that this says to me is that Bethesda doesn't want to hold press conferences anymore. They're done with live events. They want to do like a Nintendo Direct style thing where it is just trailers broadcast to Twitch and YouTube, and that's it. Because there was no reason to have this in an auditorium. I hope the audience had fun. I hope that they felt that they were somehow influencing the show, because they had no part. You couldn't even hear them. There were no audience reactions. Just stunning. And the fact that it was 38 minutes after sitting in line for hours, just utterly baffling. But I will say this much. They did deliver when it comes to news. We're going to break down exactly what happened at this press conference, starting off with the introduction. Basically, it was a bunch of children that were sitting inside of the Bethesda offices, and they were being asked the simple question, what do your parents do? Well, it turns out all of their parents work for Bethesda, but children have difficulty explaining what their parents do because they don't understand how video games are made. You know, Bethesda, if you want this to be cute, if you want me to be going, oh, look at these kids, maybe don't start your goddamn press conference at midnight. It is late at night when they're starting off this goddamn press conference, and I'm supposed to be like wowed by children that are mumbling over their words. No. It was stupid. It was a stupid segment. However, you could tell that I came into this with an attitude, but then it cut to the actual employees explaining what they do, giving brief hints as to what they're working on. It was kind of clever, but my God, I did not want to hear these stupid children talking. I'm sure they're very nice in real life. They were just totally out of place. It then cuts to a montage of Dishonored 2, Prey, Fallout, Skyrim, all of the games that they put out in the past year. And I know, Fallout and Skyrim aren't exactly new, but, Skyrim was re-released. Fallout 4 had plenty of DLC as well as user-created mods. We were then introduced to a 1950s style art style. They basically call it Bethesda Land. It's this amusement park where all of the Bethesda announcements take place, and it's got the whole, kind of xylophone music, and it's like, welcome to Bethesda Land, blah, 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 blah. It's trying to have like this gimmicky style. And they introduced the global vice president of PR and marketing, Pete Hines. He takes the stage. He welcomes the audience and makes a joke that they're all drunk. This guy just does not have charisma, and he says that this is going to be even bigger than last year. It's going to be the best. He says they're going to be talking about all the different platforms, including Nintendo. Nintendo gets a name drop there. Pete Hines takes us down a trip of the past 18 months, mentions Doom, mentions Dishonored, mentions Prey, mentions Fallout Shelter, as well as Skyrim and Fallout 4, and he brings up that over 100 million mods have been downloaded since the user-created mod service was launched on console. And then he says, but we're going to start off by talking about virtual reality, and here are 2 virtual reality games that are going to be coming this year. So the first one is Doom No, Doom VRF. I assume it's, it's like the BFG, like they're making some sort of a joke like that. Basically, it is a first-person shooter in the Doom universe. It is not Doom. It is not exactly the same thing as the Doom game that was released on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. This is entirely different. It is a VR experience where you're able to teleport yourself anywhere. So instead of walking, you just look at a particular location and boom, you're there. It didn't look like they were pre-rendered locations either, like you see in other VR games. Looked incredibly fast. In fact, the character went airborne multiple times, but the entire game would slow down, presumably to reduce some sort of, motion sickness that's very common with these types of games when it comes to VR. It looked interesting, but we didn't really get a good grasp on what was happening in this game. Like, is it just like a single shooting gallery? Is it an entire campaign? What is it? No answers. Moved on. And that's the thing, is they didn't have anyone walking on stage to explain it, so we just moved on to Fallout VR, which, as you'll recall, Pete Hines has been saying will be the most incredible thing you have ever seen. And I will say this much, it blew me away in one aspect. It is absolutely Fallout 4, but it has a rock-solid frame rate. I can't believe it either. And I do want to just have a side note right here. If you're watching this and it's like, here's Fallout VR and look how cool this is, aren't you a little pissed off? Because you know exactly how Fallout 4 plays. The frame rate is crap. It's absolute crap. And now you've got this version, this VR version that they're so proud of, and it's just running smoothly. It's like, no. That's the game that I wanted. I don't want it in VR. I mean, maybe you do, but just give me that frame rate on my system. It won't even have to render the headset and the 300 and the head tracking and anything like that. Why can't you do this on my goddamn video game system? Anyway, basically it is Fallout 4. Mr. Sandman was playing to give you that sort of vibe. You see airships flying around, walking past robots, killing Death Adders and other things. It looks like Fallout 4. One neat little aspect was that the left hand at one point opened up basically a bunch of floating objects. So it looks like they have their own version of a scroll wheel, except the items just appear in the left hand and you just pick one with your right hand. That seems pretty intuitive, all things considered. I was fairly impressed with that. It's definitely Fallout. It's definitely Fallout. And when they cut back to Bethesda Land, because this was only like 30, 40 seconds of footage, the voiceover for Bethesda Land says that Fallout 4 will be a full-length and feature-rich VR experience. It really is going to be that game just dropped into VR. And I know some people will be excited by that, but personally, I just think it's not a good idea. I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but inertia in VR is still at a very awkward point. So unless they've come up with some sort of technical breakthrough that sort of reduces people getting motion sickness, I think you're going to get a lot of sweaty helmets. You're going to get people that are going to get in there and be like, oh, this is so cool. And they're going to start feeling it in their stomach. And then they're going to be just perspiring. And if you've never experienced the VR sweats, let me tell you, it is real and it is gross. You have to take a nap. It is bad. If it sounds like I'm exaggerating, you just haven't experienced it. Then we move on to, yes, one of my favorite segments. This is one of my favorite segments of the entire thing. It was talking about the Elder Scrolls Online and that Morrowind has now been released to Elder Scrolls Online. It's available right now, so you can go and buy that. And you can go into a store and you can buy that right now. And this needs to take up stage time because otherwise it would be 35 minutes instead of 38 minutes. Just stupid. Just stupid. Because, who are you talking to? Really? I mean, I assume you get the idea that, oh, Bethesda fans are watching, so we might as well promote this. And I get that. But, like, this lengthy trailer talking about, like, we added Morrowind into our game. It's just like, well, why is this live audience here? I can't. And here's the thing, the worst part about this was they were showing people off of YouTube. They're doing those trailer reactions. Those people that just sit there and they watch trailers with the headphones on. They go, oh my God, look at this. Oh my God, I can't believe it. They were showing those people reacting to the Morrowind trailer. It's like, why the fuck am I tuning in? Why the fuck am I waiting in line to sit and watch YouTube reactions? Are you serious? It's just so tone deaf. I mean, Pete Hines is the head of PR and marketing. Get a clue. Get a clue. Because that is not what your fan base would want. I'm not even a big Bethesda fan, okay? I want to be real honest right now. But just watching, like, it's one thing to be like a Let's Player, But being someone that just sits there and just reacts to a trailer? What the fuck? Anyway, moving on. You can tell I'm really happy with this whole press conference. They start bragging about how many downloads they get. In Bethesda land, of course, not on stage, because they never cut back to the stage. They brag about how many downloads they get, and then they talk about the Creation Club, which will enhance Fallout 4 and Skyrim. And you use credits to download these mods, and they're made by Bethesda, and also some outsiders, including some of the best mod makers in the business. In case you're not aware, back in 2015, Bethesda tried to launch paid mods on Steam, and people revolted. Now, personally, I didn't think that was a bad idea. Paid mods, why not? It gets the mod creators almost like a full-time gig if they're really good at it. I think it's a win-win for everyone. However, Pete Hines, you're the head of marketing and PR. How clueless are you to reintroduce paid mods on the exact games that caused that horrible reaction? Now, maybe they think it's because, it's different now. We're going to change the way the game plays. But everyone that is, your fan base knows what the fuck a paid mod is. They're not stupid. And just being like, no, it's the Creation Club. It's the Creation Club. People are creating. And you can use points to acquire these things. Like they're weaseling through this. They're trying to make sure they never connect money and mods or those things together. And it was ridiculous, but it is coming to the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC in 2017. So we are like 20 minutes into the show, and they still have not cut back to the crowd. I really can't stress just how weird this was. This is when I started writing in the notes, why are they not cutting back to the crowd? Why are we not getting any of the audience reactions? Especially at that point, because I could only imagine what the reaction was to paid mods. Because this crowd was cheering for everything whenever Pete Hines was on stage. They were just, whoa, my God, Pete Hines. They were having a great time. I doubt that they were, in that mood when they announced the Creation Club. Jesus Christ. Well, the next winner that we have here, I swear to God, if you listen to the other episodes, I'm never this pessimistic. And there is good stuff in this event. It just so happens they front load it with boring shit. They then wanted to talk about Elder Scrolls Legends, the mobile card game, and how they're going to be introducing new events later this month on June 29th. You're going to enter the world of Skyrim. Still no crowd reactions. Uninterrupted advertisements. They then talk about Skyrim on the Nintendo Switch, and this is one of those things that I honestly thought they wouldn't even address. I thought there would be some sort of technical issue that was holding back the Switch version of Skyrim Special Edition. Of course, this was one of the very first games that Nintendo showed off in their very first Nintendo Switch reveal trailer. I'm sure you remember that from October of 2016. And what they showed in this is that you can actually use the Link amiibo to put Link from The Legend of Zelda inside the world of Skyrim. It's a gimmick, but it's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. And the next thing they showed off was motion controls. You use the left hand to control the shield or the other blade, and the right hand to control the blade. You swing your arms around, and you play Skyrim. Because everyone knows that Skyrim just has the best combat of any game. That's the game that you want to make sure that you swing your sword and get absolutely no fucking reaction to. And not only that, but all the footage was in 60 frames per second. There is, and keep in mind, this was an undocked mode. This is when the Switch is out of the dock and is being played on top of a table. There is no way in hell. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And I'll admit I'm wrong. But there is no way in hell that game is going to be running at 60 frames per second undocked. Never. I do not believe it. If I'm wrong, I'll eat my words. I'll say, oof, I didn't trust Bethesda. My mistake. But that, I think that is just such a disingenuous way to advertise that game, because they already said at the end of the show that all of these games are going to be coming to all of their consoles and PCs and mobiles by the end of the year. They guaranteed it. All of these games are going to be out by the end of the year. I don't believe for a second Skyrim is going to be running on the Switch undocked at 60 frames per second. It's ridiculous. Anyway, they cut over to Dishonored. Yes, there's going to be some maybe standalone DLC for Dishonored. They didn't really explain what it was at the conference because, like I said, we had no explanations for any of the things we were watching. Basically, it was some footage of a woman sneaking through a boat We see a man punching a punching bag. This woman shoots someone in the distance, so the man stops punching the bag and chases after her, but guess what? She slashes him to death, and then we see the camera go through a darkened window, watching the chaos as the walls start to fill up with blood, and the woman is teleporting all around. It turns out it is Billy from the first 2 games of Dishonored. She's a really cool character, in case you don't know, and she breaks a man free from a chair, calling him Old Man. I'm not sure who that character was, but they say they're going to kill the Outsider. And of course, the Outsider is the one that brings all of the powers of Dishonored to Cobalt and I guess now to Billy. So yes, they are going to be working together to kill the Outsider, who is a rather mysterious character that's never been fully explored in the universe. And that's kind of an interesting concept. You see how my tone is changing? You see how my tenor is increasing because I'm impressed by what I'm looking at. I'm optimistic suddenly. I'm just saying, but that's coming out on September 15th. We then see Bethesda talk about how the original esports game was Quake, and it launched in 1996. And then they cut to some black and white footage of pro players stretching and cracking their knuckles, sitting in chairs, using their mice, and they have camera close-ups at their serious faces, their game faces. And a voiceover says, "We don't rest till we're Quake champions," because that's the name of the game, Quake Champions. This is when I looked at the clock, because I have it in my notes here. Oh God, it's only been 22 minutes. It was that bad, where I'm just like, why is this a thing? Like, I understand why they announced the VR stuff. That's fairly significant, but we've been covering stuff that's already out. DLC for mobile games. I mean, I'll give them credit on the Dishonored thing, but it was like, why are we 22 minutes deep in here? And oh God. So they're going to be holding a contest for, Quake Champions. Oh, and they added BJ Blazkowicz from Wolfenstein. He is now in Quake Champions, which is a nice touch. It's a nice touch. Anyway, we are back in Bethesda Land, and they're going into a part of Bethesda Land that is said to be under construction. And what we see next is The Evil Within 2. Now, let me be honest here. I played The Evil Within. I reviewed it a long time ago, back when it came out in 2014. Wow. So actually, that might have been, over 3 years ago, because I think that was released in the spring. I did not care for The Evil Within, the original one. And in fact, I popped my copy back in today to give myself a refresher, because I saw that The Evil Within was going to be at the show. It accidentally leaked. And I still didn't like it, to be honest. But watching this footage, what little there was, because it was mostly a CG cutscene, which we'll get into, I was really impressed. Graphically, it looks a lot better. There seems to be a lot more dynamic motion in the character, especially when it comes to combat. It doesn't look quite as stiff. So I was like, okay, this is pretty neat. Basically, Sebastian from the first game, in case you don't know, the first game was sort of, it was a psychological horror game where you entered the mind of a killer. You had to enter this giant brain, and you were mentally there, and if you died there, you died in real life, and it was all about what is reality and blah blah blah. Not that good, if you ask me. But he's been floating around in the real world just trying to find answers, and the only way to find out is to rejoin Mobius, to enter back into the brain and to rediscover his daughter, who he's thought has been dead for years, but nope, she's apparently still alive. And then it just gets really trippy. Like, he falls through his bed and then falls through into a bathtub, and he's got a weird headset on. Now there's white faces that are rising from white goo, and Sebastian arrives to see a burning house, and his daughter's inside pounding on the glass, asking him to save her, but it's too late. He already knows he's not going to be able to save her. He sees a teddy bear on the ground. He picks it up. It turns into white goo and pulls him back in. And then the song, Ordinary World, starts playing, which is a classic 80s song, but it was sort of remade. Sebastian is seeing dead bodies hang from the ceiling. There's a SWAT team member walking around. Suddenly a burst of light comes forth, and a man stabs the SWAT team member, but the SWAT team member is standing in place, with blood spilling out. He's frozen in time. Sebastian sees a walking Polaroid camera clinging to the ceiling, which was a really cool and bizarre artistic choice. Really, really stuck with me there. We see the white void take the form of a human, standing with a staff in his hand in the middle of the forest, surrounded by appears to be cult followers. Sebastian charges after this man. He just stands in place, taps his staff, and burns everyone alive, including Sebastian's daughter. Sebastian once again wakes inside of the white goo, rising, gasping for air, before he is pulled back in. And there's the title, The Evil Within 2. It's a really bizarre and really creepy trailer that it works. It's very well paced, just really cool cinematography, disturbing art. Like I said, I'm not a fan of the original Evil Within. I don't think it's necessarily a deep departure from that. I just think that I understand what's at stake. He's going there to get his daughter. I already understand a clear motivation. And that is something that just wasn't in the first game. It was so concerned with just being about like, what's going on in here? That's weird too. What's going on? And this seemed to keep all that weirdness. I mean, for fuck's sake, I think a camera murdered someone at one point, but he has the heart. He's going into this dangerous environment. But for him, losing that daughter is far worse than anything that could happen in there. And that's a really interesting and compelling storyline. So I thought it was a rather good trailer. And like I said, the gameplay just, it had lots of shooting and stabbing and falling from great heights. The game looks a lot better than it did. And it'll be releasing this year on October 13th, a Friday. That's right, Friday the 13th. Anyway, so they're going to say goodbye. That's what they say. Say goodbye to Bethesda Land, but they have one more thing that they want to show off. It is a real trailer, and I mean like a live action trailer with real people, sort of done in the mid 1950s, early 1960s style. There's a girl stopping by a gas station. A man hands her a bag of groceries and a ration card, and she walks home during the daylight in a forest, and she notices a car flipped over with a man pinned underneath the car, like his leg is pinned underneath there. And so she doesn't know what to do, so she blows a whistle, and a giant robotic dog with swastikas on it runs out and knocks the car off of the man's leg, and she basically says, "Yay, you did a good job." But unfortunately, the dog beast is insane and bloodthirsty, so it begins burning the car with its flamethrower that's put inside of its mouth. It was pretty great. We then see basically the scene changes channels. It turns out we're watching television. We see a parody of Leave It to Beaver. We see a parody of G.I. Joe. We see a game show and pop songs, but they all have an awkward Aryan slant to them. You already know where this is going. This is Wolfenstein after all. It turns out that some sort of animal is changing the channel because it pans over to him, and then the camera pans down the hallway where we see dead Nazis littering all over the floor. It turns out that BJ Blazkowicz, with a beard and plenty of scars, is waking up in a hospital bed. Man, if you're planning on playing Wolfenstein The New Order, I would say go for it. But I'm not going to spoil anything, but I was under the impression that the ending to the game basically meant that there would not be some sort of hospital scene waking up and be like, I gotta get back to the fight. That game had some motherfucking closure, and it actually had one of the best endings, I think, of this entire generation. And I don't know, I'm not sure how I feel about even having a sequel starring the same main character and the same cast. I just don't know about it. But anyway, this young woman wakes him up, and BJ says, wow, you've gotten fat. That's because she's pregnant. She says she's pregnant with twins. We finally see gameplay. There's an evil Nazi woman that says she's been searching for BJ. We see a town that's on fire. There's school buses burning. And then it zooms into a city where there are KKK members. Yes, really. People in hooded cloaks and everything hanging out with Nazis, wandering the streets. As it zooms in on a diner, we see, in game right now, so first person perspective, a Nazi walk into that diner, and then a mother and a child quickly exit because they are nervous of him. The Nazi then talks to presumably BJ, because it's talking to the camera. He says that you're an interesting looking fireman. You look really Aryan. I hope you don't have to put out this fire. He orders a milkshake and then turns to him and says, okay, can I see your papers? So you would assume that we're telling a story right now, just like I'm doing right now to you, the idea that this diner scene is building up. But no, it just hard cuts to a scene of Americans fighting Nazis on a boat, and BJ is wearing a metal armor suit that he can, like, it's sort of like Iron Man. He can equip it and take it off at the exact same time. You know, like it covers his face. I don't know how it does it, if it's mental or if he's pressing a button or something like that. But whatever happened in the diner, fuck that. That's over. He's running around. And then we see him climbing up an elevator shaft. And there's a woman with an afro who is asking who the fuck he is. And he says, I'm not a Nazi. But they don't trust him. So he says, to hell with this. And he puts his mask back on and then threatens to kill one of her friends. Hard cut to them just hanging out and being like, oh yeah, the resistance, we're all going to work together. And there's some guy with a robot arm who's trying to feed himself. But instead he just like jams himself in the face because his robot arm is freaking out. Hard cut over to BJ and some other dude drinking together. And I guess this guy is some sort of communist, and there's a woman shooting out the window in the background. And then they start yelling at each other. Hard cut to BJ just riding on one of those metal dogs and burning people alive. Hard cut to a lot of combat. BJ grabs somebody, fires a machine gun point blank in his face, just blowing it to bits. He's blasting off legs. He's using an energy beam to disintegrate people. He's fighting a crocodile. There's a one with an axe that's about to chop someone in half. A shotgun is blasting multiple people to death, and it is called Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, out October 27th. And this trailer closes out with a weird 2D chameleon running around on the ground. A soldier picks him up, and they have a little conversation, and he puts him in his pocket. That was incredibly weird. Pete Hines is on stage. He says, everything you saw will be out this year, and that Wolfenstein is fucking bananas. And that was really the entire press conference right there. I don't know how to feel about this whole thing. Because you notice how I start off, and I'm just like, what the fuck is this? This is garbage. Why are you showing me this? This game is already out. Okay, you're advertising your mobile update. Do you really need to do that? Mobile just kind of rides on its own success. You're really going to go for paid mods? Is that a brilliant idea for you, especially in 2017 when you're trying to gain momentum? They clearly looked at how much money they planned to make originally for ZeniMax, because ZeniMax, of course, owns them. And they must have just been mad when they had to shelve the idea of paid mods. This is their ugly head rearing back up, and it's going to get them in trouble. I guarantee you it's going to get them in trouble. Personally, I have no issue with it, but that's going to be a problem. And then, you know, the last half, it's like, oh, these are games that I actually want to look at, but they're just like, they're poorly implemented. You know, it's kind of like, well, here's a little trailer for Dishonored. Like, really? No gameplay? You're going to give me a CG trailer? Okay, fine by me. Oh, wow, Wolfenstein? You're not even going to give me any sort of narrative? You're not going to give me some sort of story to latch onto? We're going to just bounce around hard cut, hard cut, hard cut? Like, I would say that the best thing here is The Evil Within 2. And as I've said, I was not a big fan of The Evil Within 2. So, you know, color me surprised. But I think Bethesda needs to take a long, hard look at what exactly they want to do next year. Because if I had to guess, this is the last time they will be on a stage. And if they're going to be back on a stage, it better be a stage show. It can't be a group, you know, watch of a series of trailers without any sort of interaction. Your fans waited in line for hour upon hour upon hour. And even if they do get to go, you know, over to the E3 event and enjoy everything, because E3 is open to the public, obviously. After this whole press conference, even if they are rewarded later, you know what's going to happen? They're going to wait in line there. It doesn't matter what the demos are. They're going to wait in line. They showed up to see something, to have that moment. They wanted to be the crowd that cheers the announcement. That's why you go to one of these things, unless, of course, you're the press. And Bethesda, you did not deliver that to your audience. And shame on you for doing that. If you're going to have them there, look at them. Let the people hear them. They are a part of your history. They are the reason you are what you are. Me personally, I don't care about Bethesda. Not that much. Wasn't a fan of The Evil Within, Skyrim, fine by me. Didn't really like Fallout 4. Doom was awesome. Wolfenstein: The New Order. Didn't actually like that game. Just so happened to like the ending. But this right here, those are your hardcores. Those are your, dyed in the wool. You cannot put them through that next year. So sort it out. Are you doing Nintendo Direct or are you doing a stage show? Because you can't have both. This year really showed that. You can't have both. But anyway, guys, that is going to have to do it for this day 2 of E3 2017. Come back tomorrow. I'll be talking all about the Sony press conference as well as the PC Gamer press conference. I'll watch it and report as much as I can about that. We're not going to give it a whole episode, obviously, because, there's not a whole lot of news that ever comes out of there. And we're definitely going to be talking all about Ubisoft's press conference. And then on Tuesday, we're going to talk all about Nintendo. So you want to come back. If you happen to miss anything, why don't you go check out me talking about the Xbox One X in the Microsoft episode, or talking about A Way Out, or at the EA Play episode. Tons upon tons of podcasts. Please give it a listen. I appreciate you for doing that. I really do. I am punch drunk and tired. I'm going to go grab myself a nap and try to forget this bizarre Bethesda press conference. But I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for listening.